Hey guys, this is a general feedback video for the synthesis project. This will be helpful to both the people who submitted their planning documents and received written feedback, and those of you who struggled with that task. The aim of this video is to provide you with feedback for issues that I have seen trending. Simple. It should also give you some strategies that you can use to move forward. My suggestion to you is that as you watch this video, you should also have the rubric out so that you are seeing how all my feedback aligns with the rubric. And you should probably also have your planning document out so that you can make clarifying notes as I go through and see if this feedback applies to you, because it does. It really does. So what I want to just very clearly remind you of is the objective of this project. This project is asking you to synthesize the new lessons that we've done, the ones on memory and the ones on imagination. So you're going to synthesize this reading as you answer a knowledge question. What I'm seeing when it comes to trending is two big trends. Either people struggled to answer the question, or people just answered the question but used what they knew before ever entering TOK, just used their common sense, rather than actually demonstrating that they'd learned something through the reading. So that both of those are big trends I've seen. And so what I'd like to do is to start out by giving you just general tips on how to move forward. So here we go. All right, so the biggest issue I've noticed is that people are forgetting to answer the knowledge question they have selected. So people have asked a knowledge question and they've written claims, but these claims do not match the knowledge question, which is kind of confusing to me. The point is to answer the question. So if your question is a why question, your second order claim should have the word because. Or if your knowledge question was a to what extent question, your second order claim should indicate the extent. And also, the claims should be about knowledge, just like the question is. So I think the best method for you to use is just the 8th grade method. Think back to 8th grade, probably to social studies class. You were learning how to answer one of the short answer or long answer questions on an assessment. And the teacher told you to rephrase the question. So that's what I want you to do. Just rephrase the question. And then very simply, very clearly, answer the question. That's your second order claim. It doesn't need to go into a great deal of detail, and it should be very clear, very lucid, easy. So once you've done that, you can use the call and response technique to double check that you have actually answered the question and it is a good, clear answer to the question. To do this, you need 3 people, well, yourself and 2 people. Siblings over the age of 12 work, parents, friends, your pets don't work for this. And for every claim that you made, you'll want to do this activity 3 times, and it's really quick and easy. It's a role-playing technique. So one person is going to ask the knowledge question. One person is going to answer the knowledge question by stating your second order claim, and the third person is going to listen. You want to make it as much like a natural conversation. One person's like, hey, I have a question for you. Blah, 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 blah. And the other person says, oh, well, the answer to that question is, and then they answer the question. It should be really easy, straightforward. People should be able to understand you. It shouldn't be complex and hard to understand. You've asked a question. You've answered the question in 1 or 2 sentences maximum. And by testing this out with people around you and making this sort of like a skit, you are essentially checking to make sure everything's clear. If it's clear in a spoken kind of setting, it'll be clear on the page. Just make sure you use the same words. So call response technique is a great way to proof things, because you guys need to be proofing this stuff, honestly. So in the planning document, what you'll see is I have asked you a really simple question. I've asked you, why is it important that we ask the knowledge question you have selected? And some of you have done a great job just giving me a couple sentences explaining, and some of you who've kind of done a half-asked job on this. And I worry about the people who've done the half-asked job, because when you identify why it's important that we ask these metacognitive questions, you are identifying a real motive for this argument. You are actually giving power and purpose. And if you haven't identified why we need to ask these questions, you probably struggled with the rest of the project, honestly. So give that question some real thought. Another thing I've noticed is that some people are still struggling to identify what is and what is not a real life situation. So, first and foremost, real life situation had to happen in real life. Hypotheticals are not acceptable. Also, real life situations have to be time stamped. They have to have happened in a particular time. They have to be an event. So, talking about World War II, World War II is not a real life situation. If you were talking about one person's account of one event, one battle during World War II, okay, that's a real life situation. One of Gandhi's speeches isn't a real life situation when you're thinking of it as like the text. It's a real life situation when you look at the speech. A documentary is not a real life situation, but there's probably someone in that documentary that is making an account of an event. That could be a real life situation. It has to be time stamped. It has to be fixed in time, and it has to be a very narrow, specific amount of time. Please remember that when you're making your selections, because there were some hypotheticals and there were some really broad, kind of sweeping situations that were identified, and it didn't help when it came to making or offering evidence for your arguments. Different perspectives. You need to be representing different perspectives with each of your second order claims. And what I've noticed is some people were just offering the same perspective or the very similar perspective by different people. So saying, oh, artists value this to the great extent, and so do natural scientists. The problem is you're trying to have an argument. This is a debate between the different perspectives. And if you have not answered in a way that gives us nuanced different perspectives, what's the point, honestly? So if you even if you have two different perspectives that seem to say to a great extent, you can differentiate by pointing out that this is because they have different purposes, or they use the ways of knowing differently with their methods. It has to be different somehow, and it needs to be substantial enough to warrant a debate between the two perspectives. And I worry because there are a fair number of people who just kind of offered the same perspective, rather than creating something that could be compared and contrasted. These are the same people that typically didn't make their development very meaningful. So these people, a lot of you, in fact, didn't try to synthesize any of the new concepts, and that's a concern. You could have given the same answer if you'd never taken the course, and that's not the point. The point is to demonstrate your new knowledge that you have learned in TOK. So do make sure you make your developments meaningful, that you are trying to synthesize this new knowledge. And also, please make sure that you are doing more than just name dropping TOK concepts, because nothing is more wasteful than just name dropping jargon and then walking away. Most common thing I've seen recently is the sentence, "The scientist, using the way of knowing of memory, remembered his experiments." Sorry, that was a copy and paste, so you can definitely see even the grammatical error there. But no, the whole idea of just being like, hey, scientists use their memory to remember how to do stuff. Like, no, you learned so much about the way memory functions. Why are you wasting my time, your time, making this statement? This is silly. Like, actually talk about the role of memory in the sciences if you are proposing to do so. Don't just say people remember stuff. What? No. You were so much better than this, guys. So much better. Yeah. Finally, moving on. We're gonna end this here. Look, I actually gave you the questions that make a good conclusion, the ones that help you compare and contrast your different perspectives, the questions that help you think of the larger implications of that compare and contrast, and the questions that help you actually throw out to the very large implications of the entire discussion. The reality is, you're not going to have me asking these questions for much longer. You guys need to be able to practice answering these questions yourself and even posing these questions. And a few of you just kind of were like, meh, whatever, conclusions, they're a waste of your time. So you either didn't do them or you didn't really try to answer and push those answers. I really recommend you really reflect on those questions that I asked and come up with some meaningful answers, because it's kind of the whole point. That's your master answer to the knowledge question. Okay, so I hope this video has helped you, given you a bit of feedback, helped you identify where you need to go back and refine, because I know you all are really capable of doing this project and doing a really great job. And so I'm going to leave you at that, and I'm going to go feed my kitten because he is angry at me. All right. Take care, guys, and I will see you on our Zoom conferences.